This is my second time to New England, and so when I judged it here before, it was just a single judge, so I just judged the Western and Hunter. And so this is my second time here. I've not seen the new barns, I've not seen the new arena. There was grass in the arena last time I was here, and there are 4 judges in the ring, and there's 3 on the panel, and so every 4th class you're out, and every 4th class you're the call judge. So you definitely get an opportunity to judge all the other divisions. You may be judging the qualifier, and you may not be judging the championship. And I have judged Western probably more than I've judged anything else, and sometimes I'm on the Western panel and sometimes I'm not. So yeah, it's different, it's great. I work out of Trafalgar Farms in Washington State with Greg Ferguson, yes. So it's down in the bottom southeast corner of the state. So yes, it is we have a list. So we have a list. If it's a Western horse, I do it. If it's an English horse or a driving horse, Greg does it. So we divide the horses up, we divide the clients up, and yeah. So the barn has multiple breeds. I only do Western. Well, the name of the horse is Tracemark Touch of Gold, and she was originally a classic driving horse and was sent to me to ride as a Western horse. So I rode her as a Western horse, and then she was World Champion Western Pleasure a couple years ago. And I live in Washington State. So Washington State is like the Morgans out here on the East Coast would be the equivalent to quota horses out on the West Coast. Everybody has a quota horse. And so this all started here. I am on my local fair board. There's 9 of us, and we're on for a 9-year term. So this is my 9th and final year on this board. And there's about 125,000 people who come to our fair in a 5-day period of time. And then it's a year-round thing, but it's a big deal, and it has a professional rodeo during 3 days of it. And it is definitely a cowboy country. Everybody has a quota horse. And I remember going to this as a kid and seeing all these cool horses going around there, and I always thought it'd be fun to ride, to carry the flag. That was my childhood dream, is to carry the flag. And so I had the opportunity last year to do that, and I knew that I wanted to ride a Morgan. It would be different, and it's very non-traditional for where I live and what's been done with these flags at a rodeo. It's very non-traditional. It's always a quota horse, and it's a cowboy, usually from the rough stock, and they just fly around there as fast as they can go. So when I was asked if I would do this, they asked if I wanted to borrow a quota horse, and I said, no, I'm going to ride one of the Morgans. And so I rode a different Morgan each night. I rode Tracemark Touch of Gold one night, I rode Grand Cru Beaujolais one night, and he's been World Champion Western. And then I rode a 4-year-old named Stand in Tribute, also, who was a World Champion 3-year-old horse. So I decided I was going to take nice horses out there, and I knew I couldn't compete with the cowboys who go really fast. My horses just don't go that fast. So I thought what I can do is have a really pretty horse, very controlled. I can have a very nice tack on it. I can have it turned out. They can tuck their head. They can do lead changes, and so that's what I did. It was very, very non-traditional for what it was, and it was great. It was really cool, and I think it represented the Morgans in a way to people that they weren't familiar with. They've not realized how pretty the horses were. I mean, I get comments even today, a year later, about how long the tails were, and are they real, and how do you keep the tails long that? So it was really cool. That was the beginning of it, and since then, I've been kind of labeled as the flag guy. I've carried the flag numerous times now. I most recently carried a flag at a symphony, where the symphony played, and they had the national anthem at the beginning, and so I came in with the flag on a new horse that I'm riding this year, and it's been fun. I don't fly around full speed because that's just not what we do, but I always keep them all bridled up and collected, and they look good. This picture, the Morgan horse had asked me if I would do a cover shot for the 4th of July issue, and so I said sure. And so the picture is not a professional picture. Greg Ferguson took the picture. It was just he and I out there in the morning up behind our property. There was no fancy anythings. I carried a flag. He stood at one end of the alfalfa field, and I just trotted towards him, and he'd say turn around, go back, and I'd trot around back towards him. So it turned out really well. The mountains in the background is the state of Oregon, and the dirt that the horse is on is the state of Washington. We live close to the border, so it turned out well, and I'm going to do it again this year. And yeah, so I carried it out of Oklahoma too. That was fun for a night, and so it's been good. It's been a good way to represent Morgans, and in my area it's particularly good because it's non-traditional. People always see quota horses do it, so it's great to see a Morgan out there and something different. I live in a town of 30,000 people, and I mean, I can't go a week without saying, oh, you're the guy who carries the flag at the rodeo, or you're the guy who carried the flag at the symphony. So it's definitely put a different spin on, people aren't used to seeing these kind of horses. And we have had Morgans in my valley, and they were nice horses in their day, but there aren't a lot of Morgans in the valley, and so the ones that I have been riding are probably a different style of Morgan than what they're used to seeing. And I get every week, I didn't realize Morgans were so pretty. I didn't realize that Morgans look like that. I thought Morgans looked differently. So every week. Probably since that, I have had some 4-H clubs come out and want to bring their kids to see the horses. I've had campfire group. There was probably 20 of them. I just know there were like 4 minivans that came down the driveway with children, and I was thinking this could get scary here. They were great. They were great campfire kids. I hooked up a Morgan, and I have some buggies that I drive around, and it can get about 8 kids in the buggy, and so we did buggy rides, and I took them down the street and kept doing shifts on them. And then when I got all done, all the parents wanted to go, so we loaded all the parents in. So it's definitely opened up a different avenue for people. They're just not familiar with seeing with these horses. And then on a personal, people say, I didn't realize what you did. We knew you rode horses, we knew you did something with them, but we didn't realize what they were. And now when they see them, and it's because of riding in the flag, carrying the flag, it puts it in perspective for what a Morgan looks like and what it is that they think they didn't realize what I did. Oh, that's a tough question. I don't think I can answer that question because every horse is different. Every horse has things about it that I like, and you know, I've had an opportunity to ride a bunch of really nice ones, and they're all nice in their own way. Some of them are good in one way and maybe not good in the other way. I have some that are, you know, they've done well in the ring and maybe not the best trail horses out there. So if I'm doing trail riding, they're not my favorite horse, but if I'm doing showing stuff, they're great horses. And I have other ones that maybe not as good in the trail or good in the show ring, but they're very reliable horses. So no, they're each special. I don't think you can have a horse and show it at a national level without getting some sort of a bond to it. I mean, you definitely bond to every horse you're with, and I don't think you could spend that much time with the horse and not have some connection to it and bond somehow. So I don't have a favorite, but I have many that I like.
Well,
so
we think that the spirit of the Morgan horse is very unique, and could you address that on a personal note relative to the uniqueness of the Morgan and its sort of intrinsic energy that you relate to, refer to it as the spirit of the Morgan horse?
So the spirit of the Morgan horse, if I thought about that and I went back to when I was young, I didn't come from a town that had very many Morgans, so I didn't know what a Morgan was, and I knew I didn't want to ride quarter horses. It just wasn't something that appealed to me. And then I think I was in the right place at the right time, and I got connected with some people who took me to the Grand Nationals my very first year that I'd ever seen a Morgan. I went to Grand Nationals that year, and it was like the perfect match. It was a pretty horse, it was an elegant horse, it was a user-friendly horse, it was a versatile horse, it was something that I could take out and trail ride. I could ride with all my sort of Western working cowboy friends. But I could also take it and make it look kind of fancy. It looked different than the rest of the horses in my valley, so I could separate myself from the rest of the herd. People say, what is that horse that you're riding? I said, well, this is a Morgan. And again, over and over and over I hear, I didn't realize they look like that. It's just been very interesting to see people realize, if this is the spirit of the Morgan, what it is and how versatile it is. Because I take them through my parades. I hook them up to buckboards and Meadowbrooks and drive them down the parade. I've driven parade marshals through the parades and stuff, and people just are not familiar with seeing this kind of stuff. So I think the spirit of the Morgan for me is just having people turn their head and sort of looking at it and say, what is that? I'm not familiar. What kind of horse is that? And I don't think there's a parade I've been through that somebody hasn't asked, at least on one occasion, what kind of horse is that? And I'll say, it's a Morgan. It's always the same answer. I didn't realize they look like that. So it's great. It's a great breed to be involved with.